I'm gonna give people a couple of minutes and see if we get the chat going. See, Garrett Trailers in the house. What's up? Random Numbers is back. I'm doing good, Chuck. Just trying to sort of finalize my goals for tonight. We have sort of three directions to go in. One is let's narrow the pool of logos down to, let's say, 5 or so. Two is I want to walk through the contest rules and talk about different aspects there. Hopefully get some ideas from you guys and add those to my list before I sort of put out the rough draft and let people talk about it and beat it up. And I was going to do that beforehand, but I decided, like, why just make it all my ideas and then work from there when I can get everybody's ideas and work from there. Trucking Locks in the house. What's up, Trucker? Glad to see you. Me and Trucker spend lots of time in BC together. Granny's in the house. All right. How's it going, Granny? All right. So I'm just going to get started and people will come in when they come in. This first one here that's on the screen right now is JRWM22's submission. I remember that because of the text, but I'm not going to remember everybody's who submitted each of these. I'll have to go backwards once we have a winner and figure out who was it and send them the pics. But yeah, so I like the lettering on this. It's very cubic. Of course, there's sirens kick on right when I start streaming. Yeah, anyway, I like the cubic lettering. The font, let's say, it's very 8-bit. It's very cubic. Aside from that, the lock shape itself isn't going to wind up being representative of our lock. I can just tell you that for sure, based off of the little bit of work that I've done. It won't look like that. So we could maybe stick with the letters and then adapt the image of the lock to something that's closer to what it's actually going to be. But so I guess I should tell you how this should work. We've only got a handful of people in here, so really the questions we need to ask ourselves are, one, is it a logo? What's up, Scully? Nice to see you. We need to ask ourselves, is it a logo or is it just art? Because some of them that I put in really are just art. They're not a logo, let's say. So is it a logo? Is it confusing? And is it cool or funny? Because it should be one of those two, right? So that's the first one. If you see one where you feel like it's definitely not a logo, or it definitely is confusing, or it misses the mark of this looks cool to me or this is funny, then just shout it out. Like don't feel bad about having to detract from other people's submissions, because we have to narrow this field somehow, because I'm not going to put up a vote with 25 different submissions. So this one to me does read like a logo. It is cool. I like the lettering, but it's sort of incomplete and would maybe have to wait until we have more of a lock design to replace that with. This next one is cool because I know somebody drew this. It's definitely cool. It's a little hard to read. The lettering here is NLP on the bow of the key. But I like the style. I like older style keys myself. So it might be a touch confusing just for the fact that it's a little hard to read, but I do like it. It could be awesome with some more work, says Scully. Yeah, I don't disagree. I think if we made an intentional move to make this bow a little more solidified rather than an artistic rendering, we could straighten the letters out and it would be a lot cleaner. So, right. This one's definitely AI. I know some people were kind of griping about things that were AI. I don't really care so long as the result is cool and usable. This one confuses me a little bit because it's a lion man. But he's like He's almost got like a digital feel to him. Like he's made out of, I don't know what he's made out of. What is that? Little cubes almost. His hair is almost like made out of cubes, which is pretty wild. Um, so I'd say it's definitely confusing. And I don't know. We might need to rule it out just for the fact that it's very confusing. Too much going on for a logo. Yeah, you could probably say that too. Maybe just the cube part of it. If it was just the cube part of it, I could sort of consider it a logo still. And actually, we do have a few that kind of play on the idea of a cube with the letters. So I need to sort of find a way to mark these as I go. Say one lock update, two clean up, three confusing slash not a logo. Right. This is some of these are just jokes, and I'm gonna leave them in here anyway because it's funny. Like this was NCR's submission. It's just my logo and a bunch of goose heads honking. Uh, so 4 I'm gonna rule out as a clear joke. Let's see what we got here. 5. So this was the result of me playing around with AI and what I was talking about when I said I made some things that just it's not really a logo, it's more like an art. This reads as a poster to me. I feel like it could be a pretty decent t-shirt with a different background. So I might hold on to it for that purpose. But I'm going to rule my own submission out here because it's not a logo. What do you guys think about the lion with the cube in its mouth? Just out of curiosity. Like there were some people that were confused about the lion, and I told them it was sort of a riff on the ongoing Daniel joke, like to name the project or name the lock Daniel. That lions would be trying to bite it. Yeah, it's very obviously AI. You know, like it's just it's just off enough where you can tell. So much simpler version. This is also AI, but it's I think a little more usable. And what I mean by that is it actually does read like a logo, and it has the benefit of being pretty engravable, which is another. I guess it isn't a goal that I set out for us, but it is sort of a bonus that if it's simple enough and it's engravable, then it lends itself to being used on the lock itself. It lends itself to any sort of related merchandise, and it also lends itself to the case. So after I make these things, I'm going to make some wooden boxes, probably cube shaped, that hold them and keep them safe for shipping, but also are kind of like a display piece. So I like this one. Any thoughts on the lion with the cube? Smuckers is in the house. I haven't seen that name in 2 years. That was the last time I was streaming. She was around back then. Garrett says meh. Okay. Moving on. I'm not gonna rule 6 out, but there's nothing no sort of big support for that one. Lady Locks is in the house. How's it going? Appreciate you being here. Like it the most for a logo so far? Yeah, it is the most like a logo so far. So this one suffers from the same problem as the last of mine, which is it's not a logo. It's just sort of art. And it's also very strongly playing on the idea of Daniel and the Lion's Den. Let's see. So 7. Oh, you know what? I misread that. Smuckers is not the person I thought it was. She was here last time. All right, 6. We're saying 6 we're going to leave in. That was the simplistic lion. 7 is ruled out for not a logo. Bravo Max Key troubleshooting. I did it again. I left the stream title as the wrong thing. Whoops. Hey, at least I have the chat up this time. I'll be able to actually have that in the video so you can see what people are saying. All right, so this one works. It's clear. It's got the title on it. It's a cube. The final cube probably won't look like that, but it gets the point across that we are doing a metal cube of some kind. So it's kind of close to the mark. So Lockchuck likes that one. Lady Lock says nice. Okay. That one will go on to get voted on. New column here. All right, 9. This one's in the same sort of vein. I think the words on the top bother me because they're not, they don't end symmetrically and flat, but we could change that. Or maybe not. It gets the point across that it's a cube. It's very readable, and it does sort of fit the timeline of the project because we don't know what the cube's going to look like, so the question mark actually makes sense. Okay, what is that? We'll leave it in there. Let's see what people think. Lockchuck says not bad. This one is one of mine. I think it's pretty clean. I don't actually know if this geometry is used by somebody already. I would suspect that it is being used by some company out there, but I feel like we can get away with it. It's clean. It's got a gradient of my company color as the background. Pretty readable on the dark side of contrast. I like that a lot. Maybe lighter green to pop. Looks very familiar, but cool. Smuckers is looking for pyro. All right, so we'll leave that in for a vote. I don't want to spend all night on this. I actually want to try and get to the point where we've got some gear mechanisms laid down. This is another one of mine. I've riffed on this goat for like, I don't know, an hour. There's like a black version with green eyes with a black cube for its pupils, and this is actually incorrect because goats don't have pupils like that. I specifically chose it because they have rectangular pupils. But let's see. Lady Locke says love the goat. Says Granny. Daniel. Yeah, we could name the goat Daniel. That could be fun. Quinn's in the house. What's up, Quinn? All right, so we'll say it's acceptable. All right, what else we got here? This is Trucker's version of the same sort of idea. If you notice, there's 3 different kinds of lions with cubes in their mouths. That was the result of us talking about it in VC and each kind of taking a stab at it. Now, this one is hyper engravable and very simple. It's got a good contrast. I like the way that the cube is actually sitting in its mouth, where his like bottom tooth comes up to the apex of the cube. So I'm a fan of this one. Definitely reads as a logo. It might still be confusing because it's a lion with a cube in its mouth, but I personally think it's cool. Great gear mechanisms for the almighty cube. Full list of logos. You don't do so well looking at all at the same time. So that we are not going to vote on them tonight, Smuckers. We're going to have a full list. They'll all be as a vote on the website alongside the next video. So right now we're just sort of saying, is this a logo or not? Is it really confusing? And is it cool or funny? See, Granny says most logo-ish of the bunch. I don't disagree. Lockchuck says, cool if you could incorporate NLP in the main. That is a neat idea. You almost have an N shape already. Okay. I'm gonna put a note on that one. NLP in main, question mark. We don't actually have to lock these down. I'm trying to get the field a little smaller, and if we have suggestions like that, then I can go back to the person that made it and see if they're willing to let me play around with it and maybe tweak it. Let's see. Next. This one's definitely AI. The lettering I really like. That's yeah, it's got like a retro feel to it. I like the coloring. Obviously, black and green are my colors, so the gold cube fits. The padlock shape on the top is bothersome. You could get rid of that. And honestly, if you look at this image and say, forget all the padlocks on the bottom and forget the image of the padlock on the top of the cube, and you just stick with the lettering and the cube shape, I think it's very workable, and it would work as a logo too. What do you guys think? Got a whole lot of thoughts coming through. All right. I'd say I'm gonna say it's acceptable with simplification. 13. I'll go back to the guy who designed it and see if they want to take another stab at sort of dumbing the image down a little bit and making it more of a logo. So cool for a t-shirt, not a logo. If the cube would be less 3D, it would be really cool. Okay, yeah. Next, this was actually a late submission, but I'm allowing it anyway because it made me laugh so hard. The creature that's sitting on the cube in this image is a wombat, and until very recently, I had forgotten that. I once learned this in school. Wombats poop cubes, so their feces comes out in the shape of a cube, for what it's worth. So you can look at it a couple different ways, right? Either it's a cute animal that sort of fits the cube shape theme, or we're implying that the cube is a piece of shit. So up to you guys on how you take that, but it's not bad as a logo. The same thing is reproduced here in color. So I think this probably fits t-shirt better, and this probably fits, well, an etching better. Doing all the hair as an engraving would be a real pain unless I got somebody with a laser involved, because doing this with a drag engraver or any sort of end mill is going to be, I think the result would be muddled and look kind of ugly. So it seems to be a logo. Love the cube image. Okay. Yeah. Acceptable. 14 is the same. 15 is this thing. This is actually one of the first ones that got submitted. And it's kind of neat because it's already in a round emblem. It lends itself to being a challenge coin if we go down that road. The cutouts here, I think I would get rid of these angular cut ones and sort of make it more of a steady pattern, and the shape's less rectangular and more cubic. But it definitely reads as a logo. It doesn't tell you anything about the project per se, but I don't know. What do you guys think? See how it converts to line art. Garrett, are you talking about this one, or are you talking about the last one, converting it to line art? I think this would be very simply improved by just adding the name. You could put the Nameless lock project or the Nameless lock project at the bottom there. Yes, both probably like it with some work. Okay. Acceptable. Cleanup. 16. Back to the goat riff. So the backstory to the goat, I didn't tell you guys that part yet. When I first made Digby Lock and Tool, I played around with the goat as the sort of like the company mascot, which is why any of these are goats. And sort of like for two reasons, right? People use GOAT as an acronym for the greatest of all time, but it also is connected to my service in the Navy. If you didn't know, and you probably didn't, the Chief Petty Officer's mascot is a goat. So I like goats. I think they're neat. I like the fact that it's got a cube on its necklace, on its collar. That's not wearing a necklace. And this is as clear as it gets. So I'd say it's definitely a logo. It's definitely not, well, the goat might be confusing, but at least the cube part and the name part are not confusing. And I'd say it's probably on the funnier end than the cool end, but it's a decent rendering and it's very engravable. So very clean logo, very nice one. Adding the name. All right. Thanks, lady. Gifted a tier 1 sub. Scully, say thank you. All right, memo, random numbers likes it. All right, this one's acceptable. It's votable how it is. Next is this makes me think of I don't even know if these get used anymore, but when you go to like a convention or some sort of like a company function or whatever, you get those stickers that you wear where you write your name on it with a Sharpie. That's what this makes me think of. And it riffs hard on the idea of the word nameless. You know, like you don't have a name for a lock, you don't have a name for the project. I kind of like it, honestly. I don't know that you could necessarily call it a logo, but yeah, I don't know. It works, I think. I think if you put this instead of in a rectangle, if you made it into one of those stickers, or if you made it into a round shape, let's say, like you put made the background a circle, it might read as a logo a little better. Like it too. It's funny for a sticker. Yeah, that is a good idea. 17 sticker idea. Votable. All right. Next. This, I think, is... No, that's not the last one. It got rearranged. This one is somebody's attempt to make... I forget what it's called. There's a cube in the movie series Hellraiser, and they told me what it was called, but they were trying to get AI to make a cube lock that was reminiscent of that cube from that horror movie. And I'm not gonna lie, I don't understand it because I've never seen that movie. But I don't hate it. I think if I were going to change anything right off the rip, it would be the shackle, because we're not doing a shackle like that. So yeah, I don't know. What do you guys think? Is this a logo? Is it confusing? And do you like it, or is it funny to you? One on an eye that looked kind of like this one without the echo around it. Too busy. It was not meant to be a submission. Granny, I don't know which one you're talking about. Was that the sticker one? Granny says mine was not meant to be a submission. He's dying over there. I don't know. This one doesn't read like a logo and is confusing to me. So It would be hard to print on anything. Yeah, it would be nearly impossible to engrave. And we haven't really ruled out hardly any of these, so I'm gonna just go ahead and say this one's ruled out as not a logo. It's a cool image. I just don't think that it really conveys what we're trying to do. This is somebody riffing on mine. I think, who was that? I think NKT sort of suggested this, and there's some of these are in here. They're just kind of drawings of the idea. They didn't really go much further than that. So in this idea, I think what he was trying to demonstrate is that the edges of the cube would be made out of the words themselves. So likely not one. Yeah, that's still people talking about the last one. Yeah, I don't know. I think this needs significant work for it to be clean enough to get used. See, this one I did not mean for it to be a submission. Oh, this is the one Granny did. Okay. Well, if it's not meant to be a submission, then we'll just skip it. 19, not a submission. Yeah, I think, like I said, I think he was just trying to lay out like the idea. This this one I left in just like I did NCRs because it's definitely not a logo, right? It's not a logo. It is confusing. It gets a lot of funny points, but that's it. I think this is Baskervilles. And if you don't know, this is supposed to be Granny. This is supposed to be me chain smoking with a shovel. And this is NCR, who looks rather like a duck rather than a goose in this situation. And we're digging towards the glorious cube block. Yeah. I left it in so you guys could have a laugh at it. Submission. At least I hope that wasn't a serious submission. If it was, Baskerville, I'm sorry. I love your art. It is very artistic. At least he took the time to draw it, but I think it's pretty clearly a joke. Okay, this one definitely reads as logo to me. It's definitely a logo. It's definitely clear. It's pretty clean. Lady Locks thinks it's nice. Clean. Yeah, I agree. I think it's votable. Votable. 22. Next we got, I want to say this was Clef. Back to the lion theme. He worked the words cube into sort of like the mane of the lion in a way, and it's cube shaped. Obviously, no lock would have the keyway where it is, except for we could actually put it on the corner. That would be pretty silly. I would enjoy that. But yeah, anyway, it's a logo. What do you guys think? Says that's cool. Anybody else like the cube line? Sorry, I'm seeing piano keys. Okay, so at least for one person, that's a little confusing. That's now I am too. All right. I'm gonna leave it as votable, just because it definitely reads as a logo to me. And if we needed to tweak it some to make it a little less confusing, we could do that. Maybe TNLP instead of cube. Yeah, I could see that. That makes more sense. All right, so this is the beginning of an idea, and it's also the beginning of a series of images that all sort of count as the same one. There were several different people that did a riff on this in the Discord, and this was just the first one. So somebody hand drew this and sort of wrapped NLP around a cube face, around the faces of a cube. This is my attempt at trying to make it more geometrical, and people ran. Oops, sorry, people ran with that, and uh, we're playing. We were all sort of playing with the same idea simultaneously. So somebody laid out the letters here, and then it became sort of like a path that formed the letters, and then this person added shadows to it, which I like. Somebody else's drawing, and then this came out. And I think of all of them, if we can, we'll probably have to remove some material here. This is actually a 3D model from Fusion, and we talked about it, and they changed the faces to render as different metals. So I think if we are able to split it here and have this render as a lighter color, and we're able to remove this material back here, it would be pretty obviously NLP. As it is right now, because this is all the same color, it kind of reads like up. But I like the idea. I think several people liked it because we all started drawing it. So that's the original. And I think of all of them, I mean, this is clean, but it's kind of hard to read. I think this is the cleanest of all of them. It just still needs like one more touch to get rid of some material here, and then match the colorization on that. So I'm going to put all of these in as one idea, and I think this is the closest to the finale. So I'm gonna take a stab at it. He actually gave me the file for it, so I'm gonna take a stab at cleaning this up, and then that'll be a submission too. And this one is not the same idea, and it doesn't have, as far as I can tell, it doesn't really have the lettering in it, but it's definitely a cue block. So it fits. It maybe doesn't necessarily immediately convey anything about the project, but it reads like a logo to me, and it fits because it's a cue block. Let's see, etching a border on each letter would make it pop. I was talking about the last one, I think. Mark Chuck says too busy, too much. Okay. I'll take that. We'll say 24, too busy. 25. This was more, I think, more somebody's like initial idea rather than a fully fleshed out thing, but it would be very easy to represent, to reproduce, let's say, in any image generator. It's pretty straightforward. Like, it's the name and a cube. Any thoughts? Like the keyway on the last one. I'd say this sort of falls in the same camp as several of the others. That's just not as developed as far. Not enough Daniel, says XXCYP. I'm going to just say votable. And if that person wants to take a stab at cleaning it up a little bit more, then we'll give them that shot. 26. This one is very artistic, and I like looking at it, but it's confusing off the rip. Doesn't really say much about it. It sort of reads more like a piece of art than it does a logo to me. Quinn says too little Daniel. I'm going to say not a logo on this one. This is another sort of idea rather than a fleshed out logo, but this was NKT, and he was sort of doing what I was saying earlier, where he was making the shape of the cube block out of the words. It's readable. I think it fits. I definitely think it needs to be cleaned up, and I think these these keyways might need to be either removed or later changed to represent whatever the lock actually is going to have as a keyway. But so it's kind of cool. Okay. Let's see. 27. Develop. Votable. 28. I have more than I thought. This is another riff on the same thing. Cube within a cube with the words kind of in place as part of the structure. More details and finished. You didn't get a Discord notification. So I'm only sending out Discord notifications to people that have chosen to add the React role for notify. If you go in the announcements channel, there's a thing you can react to, and that will give you the notify role. And that way I can ping the people that have asked to be pinged rather than everybody. So that's probably why you didn't see it. Like the previous one better. Okay. I'm not even going to write that one down as a number then. I think we'll just move on to this guy. Yeah. Thought I clicked it twice. So we're back to old style key with lettering that's kind of hard to read, but it's got a nice shape to it. And they're playing with the letters in two directions here to sort of act as the bidding. I think that's pretty cool. I think that could be that could definitely be a sticker or a t-shirt. It reads as art to me rather than a logo, but again, I think if we cleaned up the geometry to make it look solid, like this is a real key, that could be a winner. That cleaned up would be sweet, cool, but hard to read. Yeah, that's sort of my take on it too. Clean up and votable. 29. What's next? This one reminds me of an old logo. I don't know which logo it is, but it reminds me of an old logo, and I kind of like it just for the fact that it's playing around with color layering. It's readable. I think if I were to do it, I would change the N to a capital N, just because it would fill up more space and kind of balance out the lettering, I think, a little better, but maybe that's just me. National Public Radio. Maybe that's what it is. You know what? I'm going to look that up real quick and just see. NPR. Yeah, it's sort of similar. NPR's got like box out letters, but maybe an older version was like that. I'm going to say that's votable as is, honestly. It has that 80s, 90s feel. Yeah. This one, I forget who submitted it, but I like it. I think it's neat. This reminds me of the periodic table of elements, actually. But I like the contrast and how it sort of stands out, puts emphasis on the name Nameless. Fits the square shape. Let's say it's very votable. And our last one here, is very cool looking, but I don't think that it reads as a logo. I think that it reads as art. There is potential to sort of clean it up and simplify it, maybe, and make it into a logo. Like even with the safe handles on the one side, and the keyways. I like the goat on the corner. Like that's a fun touch. I like the hardware in the corners of the cube. I just think that it needs to be it needs less detail in order to read as a logo. So say go for a dig. Hard for logo though. Art. Yeah, okay. Let's say this is art. Not a logo, but could be. All right. And that was our last logo. So we've got, let's see. We passed quite a few of these, but that's okay. It'll just make it a little simpler to put these all up for a vote. So all the ones that are very clearly acceptable will just get added in. And all the ones that we sort of added notes to, I'll reach out to the people that submitted them and see if they feel like tweaking it or not. And if they don't, then we'll just skip that. And that'll kind of help us narrow the field down a little bit more. So now we're going to move on to contest rules. And I don't want to spend forever on this because I do actually want to get into 3D modeling before my brain starts to slow down. But my hope for this is that you guys are willing to type some things. And I'm going to sort of run through the different sections of the contest as I see it. And I'm just looking for you to throw ideas at me based on the part that I'm talking about. So for, it's going to be a bunch of typing for me. I should probably move this. So for the contest, it's essentially going to begin when we hit the short run phase. So after we have finished design and we've finished prototyping and we've got a functional version of it, and I'm beginning the process of making the 9 for the contest, that's when applications are going to open. So I would like to get this done well ahead of time so that we can have a couple of rounds. People can nitpick it to death to the point where we know that it's right. We know it's going to work and there aren't loopholes in it for people to abuse. Because there's money involved and, some bad actor might choose to do that. I don't really suspect that anybody is going to find the project and then and then do that, but it's a possibility, right? So if you're going to hold a contest that's global and through the internet, you kind of have to shore up the rules. So I kind of did it chronologically just for the sake of my own brain. Once we have rules voted in, and then once we hit the production phase, we'll be taking in applications. Right. So applications will be done by video submission. You don't have to film yourself. There's lots of people out there that don't like to film themselves. They're not actively involved in content creation, so that's not up their alley. And the primary idea that I have for it is that I want it to be done with a questionnaire. Answer a question. Oop. So what I need help with here, a simple veto power in case of shenanigans would be good. Yeah, and honestly, there are going to be some things that will disqualify somebody, right? If they're acting in a way that leaves lots of suspicion on the table, then yes, there are certain things that would disqualify you. Are you talking about veto power as in like there's something suspect and you can put forth a question? Is that sort of like, how does that work? How would you create a veto process? Are we talking about everybody involved votes and says, no, that doesn't count, they don't win? Because I'm not really sure. Say veto power in rules. Okay. And when you say that, do you mean that I would have the power to veto things as I choose, or that we would be able to, as a group, vote and have veto power? You have absolute veto power, veto submission of weirdos. Yeah, you. Okay. All right. Okay. And you're saying this in reference to applications specifically, or just overall. Overall. Okay. All right. Well, I'm going to add that up here as a sub note. Biggs has veto power. Period. Okay. Um, so back to the application process, it would be answering a questionnaire. And so the idea here is if we're going to use voting to select people, then I kind of want to know what you guys think is important to know about a contestant in order to choose them. Like what the criteria would be, because I think everybody's going to have their own sort of internal criteria of I want them to have this level of experience maybe, or this number of tools, or this level of knowledge, uh, or maybe none of those things, like no rules, no categories. Someone has to see the applications when they come in and yay or nay them. Yeah. And so basically the next step below this, right? The watch party, the intention for this is after we have all of the applications in, that one of the streams will be watching them all. And if we have one that seems ridiculous, then maybe we could throw that one out of the vote. But yeah, I am going to watch all of them either way. And I think I'm going to invite everybody to watch them with me because it might be really fun. My hope is that people at least flex a little bit of humor into it. But for the sake of the questionnaire, I was looking for some help just coming up with what it is that you would think we need to know about a contestant in order to say, yes, you can definitely try. Some of the stuff that I've written down, one of the ones I got from church earlier was, what is your tolerance for suffering? Because that was what came to his mind. Let's see. You can, of course, bring us in to consult/assist you in making said decision. Also, I wasn't thinking limited to any area. Say a bad actor manages to conceal shenanigans until a later stage, that doesn't mean they get a pass. History and lock sport. Okay. Tolerance for suffering? Yes. All right. So we'll say, what is your tolerance for suffering? What is your history in Locksport? Any friends in Locksport? So they're able to even pick a lock, right? Don't want a random person to get a lock not intended to even win. Just fair enough. So I guess then the question becomes, how do we verify that? Because anybody could say, yeah, I've picked a ton of locks. I'm real good at it. They would have to be able to know what LPL stands for. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, there's plenty of people outside of Locksport that know what that stands for. That dude's got like coming up on 5 million subs, I think, if he hasn't already gotten there. Picked a Chinese number 3 clone once. Yeah. Let's see. So to that point, I think rather than have you ever picked any lock, it should be what give us a short list of the hardest locks that you've picked. What? Let's see. Which locks have you picked that you would consider difficult? Because then that'll give us their perspective and also hopefully a short list of some difficult stuff that they've picked if they have. Ones that still can't open. There's still several acronyms within this that are tricky unless you've been around a while. Yeah, okay. I see what you're saying. You could use like a jargon test to see, do you know the jargon of the community? Picked successfully, she says. Which locks have you picked successfully? That's a good distinction. I'll take that. So one that might come up depending on how this lock turns out is, are you able to make tools? Because it's not necessarily a guarantee that they're going to be able to do this with hooks or rakes or whatever. What keeps them picking and stuff? What about lock sport draws them in? Yeah, okay. What do you like about lock sport? Can you bring in the belt ranking from LPU so you can verify if they really picked a lock? We could do that, but the problem is if they're not participating in the belt system, then we're ruling them out. And there are a lot of people that don't participate in the belt system but do pick locks. So I think that's a slippery slope that ends in an unfair place. That's my take on it. I just realized that you guys can't even see all of what I'm typing here. Okay. Let's see. Yeah, okay. So what else did I write down? What sort of picking tools do you have? Are you capable of making picking tools? Let's say non-standard picking tools. What we got? How long have you suffered through a lock? How comfortable are you with assembly and disassembly? I think that's a good one. Name a challenge they've faced picking a lock that requires them to come up with an innovative solution that required them to. Not necessarily going to be able to pick with hooks, so not planning on rain participate. So rain's the exception to that rule. Like there are plenty of locks that you would think absolutely you couldn't do it with a hook, and I'm absolutely certain that he could do it with a hook. So we're not going to build our rule set around one person who's ultra talented. How many locks have you bricked? I'm adding that. That's funny. How many locks have you bricked? It's pretty good. Let's see. Oh, so this was one that got pointed out to me in a VC conversation earlier today. He said, uh, "How are they going to hold this thing?" You know, like, "Hey, what's up, Norland? Welcome in." Because like, I mean, look at this thing. This is a solid chunk of brass, right? And this chunk is actually larger than the cube. It's got an extra half an inch on it. This weighs. This has got to be 5 pounds. And if we're putting a solid brass core into a steel padlock this size and trying to fill most of the void with mechanism, it's going to be heavy. So what I've been seeing recently is like there's this trend of people 3D printing bases and then adding small rig clamps to them because they're super adaptable. You can clamp onto most lock shapes with them. But the thing is, that clamp is not going to hold this. It's not going to be able to reach around the sides for one dimensionally, but it's also not going to be able to support it. Like a 3D printed stand is going to be crushed by that. So, or at least cracked by it. So we sort of walked our way through talking about making the wooden boxes that they'll ship in sort of into a stand for them. And I like that idea because it's already aligned with an idea I had previously, which is not only is this a cool collectible box that it ships in and protects it, but it could also be a display piece where there's sort of a mount on the lid and it could hold it at a neat angle. See, lock chuck can make a holder. Yeah, I think there are I think there are ways that we can get around it and even create 3D printed mounts for them that we could potentially even ship to those people. I could maybe like ship it alongside or inside that package. But anyway, the question that spawned all of this is, do you have a vice? Right? Because trying to pick that in hand is going to be rough. Um, so we talked about, honestly, just like setting it flat on your desk because it's so heavy that um, it's not really going to shift around on you probably. Say, Q block is its own vice. Probably what my manifoil stand weighs. Um, your manifoil stand is probably, it's at least a pound of brass. But I would say this is, it's got to be 5 pounds. I actually have a scale. Let me find out. This is this is 5.8 pounds of brass. Again, we're gonna lose a half an inch of that, and there will be a void cut into it, and it's gonna lose some for the shackle area. So it's probably gonna land, all told, it's probably gonna land somewhere in between 4 and 5 pounds. So it's not gonna move on its own weight. Hand lap be better than picking bare hand SFIC. Just need a wedge under it. Yeah. Okay. So I think we don't need to ask about a vice because we're going to have to create a solution for this problem anyway, or let people come up with their own solution. What did I write down? Experience with uploading. So, uh, the way that you complete this challenge is by submitting a video on YouTube. We're going to use LPU rules on pick and gut and a continuous take, show all the elements, do a close up. All of that rule subset will be inserted into this. So one of the questions is, um, how familiar are you with submitting videos to YouTube? And somebody did mention the belt system earlier. I'm just going to say, have you participated in the belt system? What belt are you? All right. So, anything else that you can think of that you would want to know about a contestant before we say yay or nay about their participation? Shout it out. Anything you can think of at all. Could be just, like these are all mostly functional questions, except for maybe the bricking that's half funny and half functional. So we could do a few that are just sort of like fun character questions, like something about them or their personality. I'm open to all of those. Can't be shy. It's going to all be on video. Put it on that stuff that you put in your tool drawers that won't move at all. Yeah, foam would hold it. I think I'm just some general questions about them in general entertainment purposes, some get to know you. Otherwise, they're all going to be robotic. Yeah, that's true. Norland, these questions are for selecting contestants, right? So we're going to, um, once the contest portion of this goes live, we're going to take in applications, and those applications will be videos of people answering these questions. And the goal is to figure out a little bit about them, whether or not they would be capable of picking the thing, and sort of like a little bit of a background on their skill. So years experience. Why do you pick locks? Who taught you to pick? And then I'll say, Personal questions. Let's see. What are some questions that would tell you a little bit about their character without being too intrusive? Include photo of left hand. Who's your favorite picker? What got you into picking? Who are your influences? Okay. Taught you to pick. This is picker. Have you ever picked your friend's nose? Hmm. I'm trying to think of some good personal questions. You know what I kind of like when personal questions are phrased as this or that's, like um, dogs or cats, Apple or PC, um, that sort of thing. Hobby or profession for you? Yeah. I think it's unlikely that we'll get a lot of submissions from locksmiths, but we do have a bunch of locksmiths in LPU, so it's possible. ASA 700 or Goal Z. Yeah. So left, right handed. I think probably what I'll do is just uh, Google up some personal questions that might get used in like an interview and just leave this for now. But yeah, barrels or gins, that's a good one. I'm gonna put that in there. All right, so watch party doesn't really need to be figured out. That's basically just going to be a stream where we watch all of the submissions. Anybody that shows up watches them. Um, Now, how we select people is a real big deal, and um, so there's been three different ideas put forth so far, and I'm looking for more. So if you come up with something that is not one of these three, please put it in the chat because I need as many options here as possible. So first is all nine selected by vote. Another is all nine selected by random number generator. I think that was Lady Locks that came up with that last couple nights ago. All nine selected by random number generator after any. Well, I don't need to put that because both of those will be after we rule out anybody that um, seems like doesn't fit. And then this is mine 3x3, three black belts, three YouTubers, three workhorses. So, selection schemes that are not these three. If anybody has a way that we could choose the people that are going to get these locks, because they get to keep them and they get a shot at money, I'm all ears. Did you vote finger pins? If so, disqualified. Moki or Jimmy? That's just mean. It's like pitting people in the community against themselves. Cat or dog? Anyone that says Jins gets disqualified. So these are the three selection schemes that I've come across so far. I think this one has the best outcome for the project at large if we iterate. If we do another one, it will have the most positive impact for that. Um, I would say this is probably objectively the most fair, and that this one is sort of a mix where I think it's both fair, but it also sort of drives involvement of the people that are actually paying attention and showing up get to choose, you know. What about single pick proof gins? All right. Well, I don't see any new suggestions there, so I'm going to keep going. So shipment is pretty straightforward. It's just going to get mailed to them. For me, there's several other things there, so it'll be insured, packed well, tamper-proofing, and let's see, lost package. So let's say a package disappears. All right, we ship out all 9, and one of them never makes it there. I think the only thing we can do in that case is to just call it a loss. Like, I can't think of any way to compensate that person or make it fair for them. It's just a possibility, right? Lockchuck says SOL. Yeah. I'm trying to think if there's any other thing we could do. I think maybe in that case I might send them a key, but I'm going to leave that out of the rules for now. I've never actually lost an international package after all of the cutaways and stuff that I've shipped around the world for Locksport. I've never lost one. So, I don't think we need to worry about it too much, especially if we package it really, really well. All right. So receipt and official start time. The way that I've been planning on doing this is, that they have to open the inner package. It's going to be a box inside of a box inside of a box, right? They have to open the inner package in my presence. They can do an unboxing. Let's see. Unboxing video can be done. Inner package cannot be opened or tampered with or DQ. Official start time is will be whatever time the inner package is opened. This must be done live on Discord with Diggs. So the way that I have this structured is it's not everybody starts at the same time and everybody finishes at the same time. It's everybody has an official start time based on when they open the package. And then from that point on, it's how long did it take them to do it? So it'll be the least amount of time from start to finish, not who finishes chronologically first. And the only way that I can think to do that and get an official time that can't be spoofed is you have to open it in my presence, essentially, digitally somehow. It doesn't necessarily have to be Discord. But I think that's probably the easiest. It also allows me to film that moment so that people can see it after the fact. Yeah. But it's fun to get packages and it's fun to, open the box. So if they wanted to film that part of it, then they would be allowed to, just to make sure it's not damaged or anything. But yeah, I'm planning on doing a box inside of a box, and that the inner package would be tamper-proof to hell. So no one will know how I'm gonna do that. So they can try and get it open and risk it, but they won't be able to. Let's see. Let me catch up here. Agreed. Call it a loss. It's no one's fault. Make 10 in case. Well, we are making 10, but one of them is for the raffle. But I take your point. I'm actually aimed at making 12 because I make mistakes. Hopefully I don't ruin 2 of them and there will be 2 left over. I don't know what to do with those if that actually does come to pass, but we'll get there. SOL, put them first on the list to purchase. Okay, yeah, that's pretty fair. Smuckers is worried about me jinxing the shipping. Agreed. Perfectly reasonable. Okay. All right. Progress tracking and updates. I want to make requests of people that are actually doing the contest. Like um one of the things that sort of needs to be done is that a lot of filming happens, right? Especially like the first attempt. And if they're making any tools for it, I'd love to see film of that, because the whole goal of this is to make one large video that shows the whole run of the process. So if somebody is working on the lock, ideally they would have a camera rolling the whole time they're doing that and uploading that footage to a drive somewhere to share with me. But I don't know that I can actually expect anyone to do that, because that's a lot of footage. I'd imagine there's at least going to be several hours of attempts into it. So um, I guess I'm kind of curious what you guys think is fair. Like what level of effort do you think is fair to ask for as far as updating the rest of us on uh, like, let's say they're progressive pinning it. They made it through this mechanism, and now they've made it through this one, and now they've made it through this one. I would love to be able to like create a timeline as that's happening of the different people and where they were at, so that I can demonstrate all that in the final video and sort of, yeah, I don't know, just show people's efforts in a stacked and more exciting way. Let's see. Sorry I missed last week and almost missed this one. Forgot my login. Well, we're glad to have you here. I know Manifoil and Alpha, non-ruined spare would look very beautiful next to, jinxing the chances of that ever. All right, Smuckers. I know you want to buy one now. Let's see. Maybe film first attempt, then ask for 3 hours or a certain amount of time of footage. They filmed to unlisted YouTube live. They can share it with you. Yeah. Okay. Film to unlisted YouTube live. They can share it with you. That's pretty clever. All right. Let's see. Most film first attempt. For as much footage as possible. Unlisted YouTube live can be used to store it. Minimum 3 hours footage overall, unless defeated first. Okay. I like the idea of the YouTube live very much. Yeah, that's pretty handy. I hadn't thought about that. Okay, so submission for end time must be a public YouTube video. Public time is your end time. So what I learned is that you can use the metadata from YouTube videos to see down to the second when a video was made public. So if they finish their pick, they upload their video, and it's set as public when they upload it, the very second that it hits and it's done uploading, that will be the marker of they've done it. And then after that, I'll have to check all of those videos and make sure they're legitimate, that they're not breaking the pick and gut rules. And I'll probably let several people watch those. Some of the moderators from LPU, maybe even, because we've collectively have watched a lot of picking videos for errors. But yeah, so must be a public YouTube video. Public time is your end time. Must contact Diggs immediately after posting. Pretty straightforward. Bank submissions. So I'm not going to belabor this point because there's a bunch of rules about that, about how the videos need to be. But I'm basically just stealing LPU's rules for that because it's like a paragraph and it's very solid. Let's see what else we got. Take it. It's unlisted. Okay. So one thing that I do want to do though, winner selection is basically just going to be the minimum amount of time that has a valid submission. And I think, yeah, we'll know once we have official start times for everybody and we have a completed and verified victory over the lock. If no one else finishes within a certain time, we'll know for sure that they can't actually beat that elapsed time. So that's how we'll do the winner selection. And at that point, the prize pool will get distributed. So this is another big question, actually. So do we want to do winner take all? Or do we want to do first place, second place, third place? I think it extends the interest out if you do multiple places, but it's the highest incentive if you do winner take all. What do you guys prefer? Do you think first place gets the whole pile, or do you think that we should do it in places? Finish quite close together is the person with the faster upload speed thing to have an advantage. Smuckers, yes, they would. If they were that neck and neck, then the upload speed would absolutely matter. And unfortunately, that's gonna have to be how it is because I can't send people to be judges to wherever these people are. It's hard to decide. Chuck says places. Places. Okay, so if we are gonna do places, I'll leave these two in here as a vote for the next video. But if we're gonna do places, how do we do the percentage split? So first place would take what percent, do you think? Because it has to be a percent because it can't be a dollar value because I don't know what the prize pool is going to be yet. It's at least $1,000, but it could be more than that. So say 4/7, 2/7, 1/7. Is there first should be a good amount. You get half of what the guy who placed before you gets that way. So 50, 39, 20. I don't think that math checks out, trucker. $50, 30, 20. That seems about right. Okay. Yeah, I'll do that. Still has a there still should be a pretty decent incentive to keep going, even if you're only going to get third place. It's 20%. Still a good little win. We're saying they're chipping in at least another $90. Whatever another 9% is. Oh, I see. Okay. Me too. I was like, okay. Yeah, so I guess I think 50, 30, 20 is a good arrangement. All right, so last thing on this, and then we can move into CAD. We need to talk about methodology, right? So just a list of you can't do this, essentially. And I think first and most obvious is no destructive entry. I thought about saying no raking too, but I think it's a valid technique, and the only thing they're really going to risk is destroying their own lock. So, um, what do you guys think? Lock check says no raking. I mean, the likelihood that they're going to be able to rake anything other than the regular pins seems pretty unlikely to me. So I kind of feel like whatever, we can leave that in there because it's a normal rake's not going to work correctly in a square keyway anyway. It's SPP. Okay. No bypassing if possible. I kind of want to leave the bypass door open to them just for the reason that if we all can't collectively make a lock that cannot be bypassed, then we've sort of failed, at least in my mind. Um, and so if we leave bypassing as an option, we'll have to block all of the known ways to bypass it. Well, all locks have the same bitting. Yes, they will. And for two reasons. One, because it simplifies machining, and I'm going to need any simplification I can get. And two, because it makes it the most fair. SPP, but leave bypass open. Okay. So I'll say no raking. Everything is allowed. Uh, is there anything else available to people that you feel like we should spell out? Like obviously, I mean, like freeze attacks are sort of in the destructive camp. I mean, it won't work anyway, but think of Bosnian Bill raking open a third gen shark key such that there were metal shavings coming out before he was successful. Yeah. Impressioning. Yeah, that's a solid thought. Um, I'm going to say impressioning is allowed because I know what this key is going to have to look like. And if they can make a blank and impression this thing before somebody else can pick it, I would be even more impressed than the person that picks it. I don't think they're going to be able to. Yeah, I don't think anybody will be able to. This is what we've got so far. You can't destroy it, you can't drill it, you can't rake it. You have to pick individual elements. You can bypass it if we leave a gap, and you can impression it if you're that good. I think that's all pretty fair. What else did I have on my list here? Let me check. Yeah. No modifications to the key or lock are allowed. My thinking here is that somebody might like heavily modify the key and then claim it's a tool. No tryout keys. Chemical attack would be destructive. Sharing information is allowed. Let's see. All locks are the same. Impressioning, that is. Kinetic attack. I mean, they can try a kinetic attack all they want. There's not going to be any springs. See, such that there's no bumping. Yeah, you're not going to be able to bump it either. Form of opening that isn't destructive should be allowed. It's up to us to make sure it can't happen. Totally agree. XXCYP hit that exactly on the head. Like the idea that like they're not going to be able to to properly rake this. They're not going to be able to bump it. Um, says kinetic is destructive at higher levels, but not lower. Yeah, I mean, if you really the only way a kinetic attack is going to work is if you're playing off of the fact that there's movement in the mechanisms and usually that there's some sort of sprung element that you can temporarily defeat just long enough to open the thing. And I'm not going to let anybody do that. So we're going to just leave that alone. Progressive picking. Progressive picking is allowed. Any significant deformed parts is disqualification. Be destructive. We already talked about end time. Okay, cool. Can they use a micro camera? Hey, that's an interesting thought. So the goal for mechanisms is gears, finger pins, levers, and regular pins in that order. They're not going to be able to backlight the thing. Oh, I got to add that. Must be picked in padlock body. So that would take away anybody's ability to backlight if there was anything to backlight. The camera thing, I'm okay with the camera thing. Like, honestly, if you've got a micro camera and you know how to wield that against a lock that's never existed before, then more power to you, I guess. Deformed modified parts. Parts or parts that have been modified in any way. So, to distinguish SPP from other forms of non-destructive opening, there should be a fourth prize for anything not allowed to incentivize people to test it for flaws. So you're saying that there should be a fourth prize for people that are willing to destroy their lock? um, or try things that might destroy it, I guess. Because I mean because we decided brass core, there are going to be lots of brass elements in it, and brass is not that hard to destroy, especially if you're going at it with a. Oh, okay, not destructive. Maybe I missed it. Are bypass and raking not allowed? So bypassing is allowed, and raking is not, because raking is likely to destroy / wear down / modify elements. Bypassing isn't necessarily so. If they can figure out a way into this thing that doesn't involve manipulating the elements the way that we intend them to be, then they win. Like that would be incredibly impressive to me. Prize for being willing to destroy your lock is exactly what that sounds like to me. Yeah, so he was talking about not non-destructive methods. Same page. Okay, so I think that's far enough. I'm going to have to add some more stuff in specific to pick and gut and one continuous take and all that sort of thing that most of us are already familiar with. But yeah, so now we can move on to CAD. I'm going to take a quick bathroom break and I'll be back and we'll get into making some stuff with gears. All right. All right. Garrett Trailer says, "What is bricking?" So bricking is getting the lock into a state where it no longer operates and it needs to be taken apart in order to operate it again. It didn't. Okay. All right. So the goal for tonight is to come up with and demonstrate a few ways that gears could be utilized as a mechanism so that we have some visual representations to talk around. Because what's taken place so far in the Discord is a handful of ideas, but mostly ideas that lead directly into confusion about how it might play out. So, I mean, that's to be expected. There aren't a whole lot of gear locks in existence, so we don't have a great frame of reference to look at and say, "Oh, this is how we could do it," or we could do a tweak on this mechanism and change an axis. So, there are two of them that there's sort of two ideas that I've been playing around with. Um, and I guess really three. So I'm going to try and demonstrate those as quickly as I can to get it to the point where it makes sense to you all. And if I can achieve that, then great. And then we can sort of discuss the merits of each. F3D is really the only thing that comes to my mind. 787 too. Yeah, I think honestly, Fichet is about the only company that I know of that has, we'll say, maximized the use of gears and their mechanisms. Um, and they're really cool locks. So Rosengren. Okay. Not super familiar with that one. I recognize the name, but yeah, I'm not familiar with a geared lock from them. Or unless that's the name of the lock. RKL 10. All right. Well, to start with, what I'm going to do is bring in a gear rack from McMaster because it'll be way faster than me modeling it. Oop, I was already right there. Gear racks. Say 20 degree pressure angle is the current constant gear rack. And let's see. This is 1/8 inch by 1/8 inch brass. That seems like it fits well. I'll flip it over to, I think step works. See if we can get this thing to import. That's going to be way too long because it's 2 feet long, but if we can bring that in, that'll give us something that operates that has a known gear quality and so on. Is it not working? What's going on? Let's try sat or step. I thought I'd tried step and it didn't work. How about sat? Doesn't want to work. Let's see if I can get a different one. Those are all way too big. See if I can get anything from it. It might just be the actual thing, actual system. Gears and racks. See if we can get this guy. Doesn't really matter which one, just testing it. Okay, well that came right in. I don't actually want that gear. Let's see. Gears operate remote DD mechanism. Aren't lever locks just about the same as a gear mechanism, except just the way that they interact? Yeah, I don't know that you could say that really. Uh, lever locks and gear mechanisms. I mean, like I said, I'm not super familiar with any gear mechanisms in existence, so comparing it to lever locks is hard for me to accept. Just for the fact that the motion the motion on a lever lock is you rotate to open, and by rotating, you're also sliding at the same time. I guess you could say a rack and pinion sort of operates that way. There is a similarity for sure. Let's try and do this one more time. I really thought that it was just going to work. Gear rack. Gear rack. I want the 1/8 inch by 1/8 inch because it's about the right size. There we go. Again, it's 2 feet long, so it's way longer than we need it to be. Let's just chop off a section of it. Say, like, rather than splitting it, I'm just going to take a section that I want. So say a pin. Let's see, how tall is your average pin? It's like 0.13 or 0.15 in diameter. They vary. A 1/4 inch. I'll go with a 1/4 inch for now. If it's going to let me do this. Yep, it will. So 0.25, that puts us right in the middle of another tooth. What I'm going for here to start with is I'm going to try and turn this bit of gear rack into a finger pin so that it's a finger pin that has gear teeth on the back side of it. I'm going to just any old shape here. Okay. Split this off. All right. So now we got our piece. I'm going to take this piece and move it out of my way. It's struggling because I'm streaming and trying to model at the same time. I might have to, in the future, just bring in components that I think I'll need and then only work in offline mode. I think that might actually be easier for it to pull off. So it'll just be doing the modeling side on the PC. She's struggling. Throwing to move a gear rack like a couple of inches. That's not cool. Wait, def of that software. Let's see. I can catch up on chat here. Need all connected, so each mechanism has to turn operate simultaneously. That would be cool. I would like for them to all be interacting but not interdependent, and that way we can stick to, you can pull out this mechanism and then this mechanism and so on, and have varied experiences picking it. You'd have multiple experiences with the same lock. Wouldn't call them the same at all. Stump bolt is not connected with the levers. One can move levers wherever you like, presuming lack of detector without attempting to throw the bolt stump. Yeah. Yeah, that's fair. All right. Maybe I should just delete this. Maybe it can handle that a little better. I really got to go into offline mode. This is killing me. Nothing like waiting for your program while it says not responding. Come on. I'm tempted to close it and open it again and see if that does any better. But before I do that, I'm going to put it in offline mode so it stops trying to communicate with the server. The Fusion 360 is a cloud-based program, and it will use the cloud for certain tasks, like rendering, for example. Um, but I've actually never had it lag out this hard ever, which tells me maybe it does more through its online connection than I previously realized. I'm struggling to keep up. I do actually use it frequently in offline mode because it tends to do better. It doesn't lag out on me, but I've never had it go this hard. All right. Tell you what, I'm going to close it and we're going to try this again. Put it into, put it back into this mode for a second and get Fusion reopened. Open this recovery file. Well, we still got the gear rack at least. Let's go offline mode. And I got to get us back into the CAD view. All right. Looks like it might work. Let's do the same thing that we just did. Hooray. This one play. All right. Well, this is just an idea demonstration anyway. It doesn't have to be exact. Bodies. Get rid of that. No. Weird. It's it's deleting the wrong one every time. That's strange. All right. Well, I'm going to attempt to do the same thing I did last time and move this giant rack out of the way. Why is it connecting these two? That doesn't make any sense. It's because I'm grabbing the sketch, not the thing. Nope. All right. Whatever. Let's move this out of the way and see if it bogs down the machine again. Yeah, I think what might be happening is there's just a lot of features on this component, like the way it was modeled. And so it's struggling because it has all of these facets on all of these teeth, maybe. Uh, so I think instead, maybe we just try and move this guy. I just want it at the origin. I think that's too much to ask for. Whatever. Well, all right, let's take it 90 degrees. We'll just work off the origin. It's not important either. So this little guy needs to become a finger pin. So for that geometry to happen, we're going to need to profile it, or we're going to need to treat it like it's a lateral thing. So what do you think we should approach first? We could do your typical finger pin that's got a tab here that sits in the lower portion of the keyway and the gear lifts up. Or this, in this case, the finger pin with gear teeth lifts up and it interacts in a vertical fashion. Or do you think that it makes more sense to treat it more like a slider that pushes in? Because either one can work. It's sort of, we're sort of choosing which orientation we want the gears to be in by choosing these. Really, the only reason I would lean one way or the other is your typical finger pin with the vertical arrangement and the tab in the lower part of the keyway. If we can pull that off, it also sort of counts as a finger pin, right? So we will have hit gears and finger pins, which is our first two mechanisms in the order of operations. Fusion 360 is not that GPU intensive. It actually, I rarely have it stall like it just did, which is why I think the gear rack that I imported just has a ton of features to it. So, any thoughts? Should we go vertical or make it sort of like a push element? I'm hoping the chat's not stalling out. All right, nothing heard. I'm going to go vertical. Still, I need to move this away from the other rack because it's going to get confusing. So if we go vertical, making vertical chambers that are square, no comment, says Garrett. Vertical chambers that are square is sort of an impossible geometry for me, depending on how many piece construction it is. So if we're thinking about it like a normal plug, it's going to have to be at least slightly rounded. So let's start there and see what that does to us. What is this? Some component positions can have changed. Capture the position. All right. We're going to do a sketch on the top of this and see how much of the gear rack we still have left if we change it to the minimum radius of a 1/8 inch end mill. And the reason I'm choosing that is because I know that they have enough rigidity and depth to easily make chambers for me. I don't think we're gonna like the result of this, but I have to see. So let's say 0.0625, which is that's the radius of it. That's gonna wind up making it exactly round, which I should have realized because it's 1/8 inch by 1/8 inch. Huh. I am actually curious now. Let's see what it looks like if it's perfectly round. It's going to lose a lot of the teeth on the edges, but I wonder. I wonder if there's enough to still interact with. We're going to extrude all that off. All right. It actually looks very similar to a normal finger pin, except for the cuts are far deeper. And they're continuous rather than located. Okay. Well, that seems pretty functional to me still. So, I mean, because we're only losing, let's see, if we go back right before that, we're losing that much. Okay. Let's see how long that is. It says 0.114. So we've only lost 9 thousandths, which is 4.5 thousandths either side. That's still plenty to interact with the gear. Plenty. Let's see, I'm trying to get an idea of where we're going. Thinking of just one element, I'm at a loss. Understand the interaction or intent. No comment. Yeah, that's fine. That's fine. Well, and that's sort of the goal, is to get enough laid down where we can at least have an intelligent conversation about what we like better. Because right now we all just are thinking gear lock. How do? Uh, so I'm taking a known element that I could purchase and modify to reach this state, such that we have something that we're all more familiar with. So this is going to be dropped down into the keyway. So a portion of it will. I still need to add the actual finger to the finger pin. And I'm trying to think right now of what geometry works best for that. Because it needs to be able to fit through a slot. And that slot, since this is round now, it actually works really well because I can just drill that hole. I think the problem that we would have is indexing, but the indexing is sort of self-corrected by having a tab and a slot. So we just need to add a tab that makes sense, that would be able to catch on the key and not bind on the sidewalls. And yeah, it needs to be rounded enough where it's not going to cause problems, and can still index this thing such that the gear teeth on the back face in a predictable manner. Because if we just leave this as a round pin, this thing will rotate in its chamber, and you'll get it'll either stop engaging with the gear altogether, or it could potentially cause a jam. All right, so we need some sort of a tab geometry on this. It doesn't need to be perfect. I get stuck sometimes thinking, what's the perfect geometry? And that's really not that important. We just need something to visually demonstrate what we're doing here. So we'll say another, let's see, a tab on a finger pin's probably somewhere in between a 16th and an 1/8. Let's see what a 16th looks like. That looks like plenty to me. We'll go out the same, make it square. Why can't I make it coincidental? Close enough. Okay. And we're going to, that's going to be a problem milling. So we're going to need to fillet that once it's extruded. This needs to be rounded. Let's make it into a shape and then play with it. Doesn't matter which end we're on, so we'll just start from this direction and do it backwards. Boop, boop. Bring this up into space. Say negative 0.01. No, not even typing here. Negative 0.0625. Keep it it's basically a cube. That's kind of fun. All right. Now we're going to take this edge and edge, because we can't make that geometry in a mill. We're going to have to give it at least, I like to base everything around an 1/8 inch end mill at the minimum, but we don't have to. We can't actually go smaller and hit a smaller radius than this. It's just what I'm most likely to use on any given day. That is too big of a fillet probably, unless we make this longer, or we make no, we can match that geometry. Never mind. Pretty sure we can match that, because this is still an 1/8. No, it's not. It's half. All right. Well, let's round it some more and see. We'll do this. We're going to round all 4 corners of this just a bit. $15 thousandths. It was 25. Looked like. I think I'm actually going to do the edges that'll interact with the key first. And in fact, I'm going to take this fillet back for now so that it doesn't do weird stuff. Put this in 102.5, gets you almost to a round peg. 20 thousandths. 20 thousandths looks good. Do that. We'll do. You know what I'd like to do is get this into a square shape, at least to have square faces on it, because then it would be easier to make this geometry. So this is going to look wonky either way. Doesn't matter which order I do it in. See, it just needs a flat side to it, so when it rises up and down, I can't twist or have an extended tab. And I got sent an ad right after sending that. Let's see. I think we actually need to add geometry down here to get it up off the bottom, off of the floor, so that the key has enough room to scoop underneath this. I've made the mistake before of counting on a fillet to scoop an element with a key, and it's just not enough. So we either add more to the bottom of this, or I don't know. Let's see. Let's see if it'll let us do this now. Oop, that's not what I wanted. Stick with 20. It's flat enough on the sides, but it's also lacking the fillet that I think it probably has to have here. And on the other side, it's probably going to do the weird thing again. Let's try. Yeah, it keeps wanting to do that. Maybe I should have left that one fillet there and done it first there. It's not that the geometry is bad, it's just that I can't actually make this shape. So I'll come back around to it. I'm going to add a little bit of meat on the bottom of this because we need it. Let's do a drawing. It keeps taking me back to the origin. That's why I like to draw on the origin. One of the reasons. Go 102. And then we're gonna see if I don't actually know if it'll let me draft like that. Tell you what, I'm just going to complete that circle instead. 0.125. I'll extrude this out about a little bit more. And then we're going to chamfer this edge down. Oop, probably should have selected that too. Starting to look like a pin, no? It might be, it's either just right or too far. That's acceptable. All right. Did we lose Granny? I'm not sure. I can't actually see how many or who are in here. My phone is slacking. All right. So this looks exceptionally weak to me up here. I'm going to add just a little bit more meat. Nope, that's not what I'm trying to do. It's going to force me to draw another sketch. Just want enough meat at the head of this so that this tooth is sort of supported. All right, so there's a finger pin with a gear rack on the back. Now we need a gear that actually fits this. And I'm going to see if it'll let me get rid of this other thing now. Nope. It's really annoying. I've had this sort of thing happen in Fusion where it's the same sort of result. And it happens when I import an STL model that has too many faces on it. So some modeling software, if you use a different modeling software and it creates a bunch of faces, facets, let's say, onto something, it just bogs the whole thing down. Yeah, so that just like destroyed what I just did. Awesome. All right, I tell you what, I'm going to try and put this into a whole new design. I'm going to take this and I'm going to, I have to make it rather than a body, I have to make it something else. So this is definitely body one. Create component. There we go. I'm going to copy this. Make a new one. Start here. And there we go. Now I've got one without the giant rack in it. Maybe this will be less stupid. It is upside down, so let's flip it around. I don't know if I'm going to be able to explain this right, but I've got an idea where the key will turn a single gear at a continuous rate as it's inserted, and then another element of the key will push some element to interact with that turning gear only at certain points as the key is inserted. But then when it is fully inserted, that same key element also raises finger pins to the correct height. Um, the key will turn a single gear. And then another element of the key will push some element to interact with that turning gear, only at certain points. That's interesting. I don't know which sort of element that it would be, though. So there are a couple of different things that you can do playing around with gears. One is to play with gear ratios and include a second gear so that movement is differential between, like, you could have, say, 6 of these finger pins down the side of the keyway, right? And you could have the same gear driven by each of them. And then the second gear that they interact with are different teeth ratios. And if that's the case, then the same amount of movement on each of those finger pins will result in a different amount of movement on the back end. I think what you're talking about is playing with continuous and intermittent operation. So you would have what they call, what are they called? It's a specific type of gear, mutilated. You're talking about mutilated gears. So you could have one gear that's continuous that has teeth all the way around it and has a continuous operation with a rack that's in the key. And then you could use mutilated gears or some other intermittent mechanism to come back around and interact with it from the side. But in order for me to see what you're picturing, you're probably going to need to draw it, because there's more to that than just a clear idea that I can CAD based off of your words, at least the words you've used so far. All right, so now that we have a predictable mesh, I'm going to go back over to this empty one and try not to break the thing that we are doing. I can't do the part because I'm disconnected. Is it worth risking it and going online again to find a gear that fits this correctly? I think it is. I think it is. We're going to give it a shot. Working online. Insert. Make master car component. Gears. I need to go back and find the gear rack that we just used to know enough about it to find something that matches it. So this is 64 pitch. 64 pitch. That's all you give me. Give me more information than that. 20 degree. Should have a modulus. Gear angle, inch brass. Nope, it sure doesn't. Huh. Oh, I guess the module is the pitch. Interesting. I'm still learning about gears, so I didn't realize those two things were the same thing. Let's see if we can just find a 64 pitch, 20 degree gear that will fit this. That's 1/8 of an inch wide, preferably. Ooh, gear stock. I do actually want to get some gear stock just to play with. I didn't realize that this was a thing until like this week. But you can just buy a rod that's already has gear teeth cut into the face of it. And so you can cut it to any width that you want and modify the internal diameter and anything else about it that you want. See you later, Lock Chuck. Have a good one. All right. Each pin would be like a dimple with a lever that pushes a gear against a gear that is constantly spinning as the key is inserted. The dimples on the side of the key would kind of act like a binary code. Can't really come up with a way to do it without being easily decoded yet, though. Simple with a lever. Yeah, you're definitely gonna have to draw that, even poorly, because I can't picture that in my head at all. Like, it sounds like it makes sense, but I really can't picture it. All right. Gears. Go round slash machinable bore, round bore and set screw. Sounds promising. Let's do that just in case. Say face width. All of the face widths are 3/16 rather than an eighth. I guess that doesn't really matter. We can make it the size we want. I just have an extra 16th on there to mill off. All right, so gear pitch is 64. So we have two numbers of teeth available to us. Pitch diameter. We're already in the category of 20 degrees, so either of these would probably work. They're both stainless steel, though. And they're both expensive as hell. For the sake of the model, we will bring this guy in. Okay. I'm just going to, since that worked so easily, I'm just going to bring it into this one also. Nope, it's going to make me search for it again. All right. Back over here. Bodies. Turn this into a component. Copy pasta. Showing paste. Paste now. There it is. All right, we're going to bring this up over here. It's not really on the same plane yet. Over here. Try and center it up a little bit. That's pretty close. It's not quite. Wrong way. That's as close as my eye can tell. Here. It's not quite there. Say negative 4.5. It's pretty close. No, it's not actually. Let's see. What angle do I need it to be in? It's only ever going to have a few teeth that are actually engaged. So I just need to get one tooth actually engaged all the way for it to make sense. I don't even think it would be that engaged. It would be somewhere maybe about there. I'm putting Smuckers to sleep. Yeah. I didn't expect this to be riveting material, by the way. It's fun for me, but I did expect that people would be like, CAD. You'll wake up again once the machine starts going, but unfortunately that's not going to happen tonight because I broke a probe tip today prototyping something else. That's an awfully large gear for what we're doing. So we're going to modify this to, let's see. Finger pins. Yep. Not only is it a finger pin, it's a geared finger pin, lady. Yeah, we're going to hide this. And then we're going to select move, and then we're going to unhide this. Wow. It just wants to rotate. I just want to move it. That is wacky. Its planes of movement are no longer in line with the shape of it. Let's try moving the other thing instead. Let's hide this guy. Move this guy. That's a little more irregular. We're going to move it up here and pretend that we're going to machine off part of the face. Make sure we actually have as much engagement as we can get out of 1/8 of an inch. So I feel like that's important. Come on. Negative 0.02. It's a little bit of overlap, but I think that's probably good. Okay. Look at here. We're going to take this face and we're going to bring it down until it looks the same. Come on. He wants to be right on the half line. That's really close. Or, nope, that's the wrong way. Close enough. All right. Use gear ratios to mute feedback. Feedback indecipherable from gear tolerance. Yeah. Just fixing to say that it is big. Yeah. Let's see what you said it's big. I'm kind of curious now what the dimensions on this thing are. I didn't even bother to check. Let's just do this. Capture position. Make a little circle and get a rough dimension on it. So OD is approximately 0.59 inches, which is big, but we also do have a lot of space to play with, and we can stack these in layers. So this shaft is probably not going to work out, though. In fact, almost don't want the set screw. Now that I'm thinking about it, I almost we want to keep it in place with something that's that can move, because then we can use the same shaft for all of them. Let's say we go 4, 5, 6 finger pins deep. We just get rid of this whole thing. We don't necessarily need all of this. We just need this bit. So let's do that. Bring this out a little bit. So bring this out. Inside the gear. Finish the sketch. I didn't hit OK. That's what I'm doing wrong. Nope. Okay. Sketch. We're going to hide this other guy so it doesn't get destroyed while we're doing this. Lots of circles. We're going to bring this all the way down to the face of it, because why not? Then we got a rather fat, rather large gear, probably way stronger than the finger pin itself would be. At least according to McMaster, these parts are made for each other, so it should work in theory. I don't know. You're not going to get a whole lot of movement out of that, though. It would be able to go up to about the apex of the outer diameter. So I guess you would get about the travel of that to that in either direction, which might actually be more than a typical finger pin. So I think that can work. It says, I think you can have them very close to the same size, but then you lose a mechanical advantage one over the other. I'm not sure when you said that. All right, so let's envision less teeth or less movement is on track, I think. Let's do this. Actually, I don't want to create a copy by moving it. I want to create a pattern. These bodies. Axis. That one. I want to have, let's say 4 of them. Stack them with, let's see, a distance. Oh, 125. That can't be right. 125. Let's try 0.25. Maybe that'll give me what I'm after. No, that's still wrong. I wonder. Spacing maybe. There we go. That's what I'm doing wrong. It's still not enough because they are about that wide. So we want it to be about 2.5. So that would give us 0.125 in between each, which is fairly strong even in brass. That looks fun already. So then we got to figure out where we go from here. See about keyway. Oh no, let's focus on the mechanism still. So we've got finger pins that you would have to lift. So they're going to bottom out. They would physically bottom out at the bottom of their chamber. So it's never going to go down beyond that. So we're really only talking about upward movement and the extent of that upward movement. And that movement would cause this gear to travel, which means anything directly opposed would be downward movement. We can reverse that again with a secondary gear, but I think the less gears, the better, especially if I have to buy them because these things are not cheap. That being said, I might be able to find much cheaper than McMaster car, but still, this little guy with the extra features and stuff was $25 or something like that. It's bananas. So then the question becomes, do we use the gears themselves as a locking bit? Do we have a secondary mechanism like, I don't know, a sidebar, let's say, that interacts with all 4? Or do we have a secondary mechanism that only interacts with each of them in turn? So we would have 4 more elements to add here to be able to lock these down. When I originally drew something close to this, what I came up with was a another piece of rack essentially on this other side that starts high and would be driven down low and is sprung from the bottom. So it would in effect spring your finger pins without needing springs in the finger pin chambers. You could do all of that over here, and then also have another rack with a feature that could lock the thing. And it sort of depends on which way we're trying to move it. So finger pins, as far as I know, exist exclusively in pin tumblers, and pin tumblers exist exclusively inside round plugs that are meant to rotate, and that's how they break shear. So if we stick with that thinking, then our plug at a minimum is going to have to start out bigger than your average bear, because the key we're putting into this, in order to fit multiple mechanisms into it and have them all work correctly and independently, it's just going to need more meat. That's going to be a hallway of a keyway. And we're going to have to count on the mechanisms being difficult enough to interpret and manipulate simultaneously. So yeah, I'm not sure what the answer is on the far side of this in terms of what this gear is going to be interacting with. I'm open to ideas if any of you are still there and awake. Just checking my phone real quick. Is the idea you're referring to having a sprung element on the far side? So if we're trying to make this, let's see, we're trying to make it rotate. This actually works better as a large flat face. Like imagine, let's see, how do we do this? We need enough of this. Let's base it off of the finger pin and we'll just go from there. We need enough space that the slot this rides in can justify it and keep it from rotating. Let's see, how much do we have here? 69 thousandths. That is really not that much. I wonder what a typical finger pin is. It's probably about that. I just don't actually know. So we need a little bit of a wall here. Let's say the whole thing matters. We'll call it 70 thou, and then we'll make the chamber start here. So we can tweak all of this stuff. So this is the keyway. We'll say it bottoms out at the same place that does. About there. I think the more elements between the finger pin and actual gate, the better, but there is a limit. I guess I'm thinking right now is what is the end result? What movement does it need, and then work backwards. Yeah, and that is a good way to do it. What I'm sort of trying to do now is build some sort of a core around this so that we know what that goal is. Chances are it's going to be rotation, but the tricky part is if you think about this like a normal pin tumbler, right? A finger pin is going to live inside the core. So if the plug needs to include this, then it also is probably going to need to include the thing that it's attached to mechanically, which means our core is going to be this big around, which is fine. It doesn't have to be a tiny little guy like every other lock in the world. I'm just trying to sort of map that out. So right now I'm trying to give myself a keyway And I think we're, like I said earlier, I think we're only going to have a little bit of travel there. You know what? It would be better if this was a slider and not a finger pin, honestly. Like if we could put the nub somewhere else and give it more freedom up and down than just the keyway, it would make this more painful because you could be wrong in two directions equidistantly. But this can only go up, and it has a limit. So it's only going to go up maybe 3. I think we could probably get 3 spaces of movement out of it. So let's see what that looks like. We're talking about. Might as well do it from the bottom because it's going to get driven from the bottom. So we say this, it can be pushed about as high as definitely that much, but maybe even this much. So we'll say 0.194 just to be safe. That's the amount of travel we need off of this. 0.194. I'm already well past that. So we can say, what's a good healthy round number in this area? We'll just make it, we'll make it 3/8 for now. Go out 3/8. This line and that one. These. That's barely anything to grab onto. That's too much. I'm going to have to either make this longer. Shit. I really don't know. I don't know how much nub you need to be able to grab onto reliably. We'll keep going. We can tweak all of that. So let's say this is the keyway. It's definitely not going to be that shape because, again, broaching. So say 0.0, no, 0.35. That would be, well, that takes it completely out of the keyway at that point. That doesn't work. Make that keyway. Need a keyway that can function for that. The radius precludes it. Let's see what it says. Also, won't a lot of that finger pin still work the gear rotationally because it just has to grab the gear, even in the tiniest piece of it will grab. Yeah, that's true. Any bit of teeth that are interacting and the spacing of it matters a lot, and I need to learn more about that because this is probably, it looks to me like it's over engaged. Like this maybe would even bind because this is so far in. But yeah, I need to learn more about that math for sure. And even turn to disengage. I hadn't considered that. I suppose you could make it, if you wanted to give the finger pin a ton of freedom, you could potentially make it disengage by adding void shapes on either side of it, but we're counting on this tab to keep this finger pin indexed to the gear so that the teeth are actually meshed together correctly. If we start rotating it, you might be able to get away with that, but it's dicey. It also opens up this channel that this tab needs to ride in that it doesn't exist yet. It's just I'm imagining it right here. There's sort of like a wall of material. Um, it opens that up. So uh, catch you later, diver. One side of the pin was flat. Would that work? One side of the pin was flat. It would. It would work. It would index it. Um, yeah. I think the way how we arrived here though is that I mean it started out flat, right? It started out as a square, and the issue was how do I make the chamber that dimension or that shape rather. So we're back to the same problem. If you make a one side of this flat, then the chamber also has to be flat. And if that's the case, then you would have to fillet it. And if you have to fillet it, then you need an end mill that can fillet it to that dimension. And if you get much smaller than an eighth of an inch in an end mill or a drill, let's say, um, you're gonna find not that many of them that are capable of drilling or milling deep enough into the core to pull it off without snapping. So um, that might be an avenue we go down. Uh, I'm kind of stuck right now on how do we make a keyway this shape, and uh, maybe I should just consider that I could mill it from the top, and we can sort of conceive of this lock as built in layers because we could do that. Could do that. I'm trying to picture it, but all right, we'll just accept the keyway as a square for now because I can make that end mill. I can make this shape if we're milling from the top down. Um, and until I have a reason where I can't do that, then I'll keep going. So we need to create the body around it. I've already got the mechanism sort of in the place where it would need to be to make the body for it. So without going backwards, I think we'd stick to where do these gears go? What are these gears going to interact with? We've got a lot of options, like a ton, because we can put something anywhere around the circumference of this and have it operate. We could put it below, we could put it above, we could put it on the backside, and no matter what, it's going to experience a reverse direction of these being lifted. Um, what I'm now trying to picture is how do we make whatever interacts with this gear lock the overall cylinder from rotation? So let's just try and make ourselves a cylinder and see if that helps visualize the thing. We start here. We come out. That's 2 inches. That's a lot. Let's see. We just come into the gear. Even just the gear, we're already an inch and yeah. But that is also a giant key, though. Let's make it a 1/4 inch and see what that looks like. Um, we'll start from this corner. It's that corner we like. Just for giggles, I'm going to reverse this too. Stop. Why are you doing that? Okay. Oh, it's because I'm in the sketch still. I do that all the time. I'm like trying to grab components, and it's like, you can't do that. You're trying to do a sketch. All right, so I'm gonna grab all these components. Why can't I do it? It's like losing its mind right now. All right, well, we'll do this. To create a copy and shift it over this way and then rotate it. I just want to see what we wind up with if we go ham in just this one mechanism. In terms of space for the core. Okay, what did I do? It's not straight at all. Eleven sidebars. Okay, you know what I'm going to do? I'm just going to do all of that over again because at some point I tilted it and I have no idea what degree I tilted it. So I think, yeah, what I should do is use the pattern tool. Body selected, axes is this. Gonna do this. Change this to 2. And an inch is fine for now. Gonna get the same group of things. Those. Rotate it. Nope, not that way. Grab the wrong thing. Did it do it again? It did. I don't understand why it's tilting it. I really don't. I just rotated it 180 degrees in a flat plane. Close enough. My face is hurting. I've been smiling so much. I'm not sure if that's a good thing or a bad thing. You're just enjoying the suffering of operating Fusion 360, or is it the future suffering of the people that will have to deal with this thing? Creativity is exciting. Negative 0.65, 625, 63, 64. All right, I'll call that good. I just got to get them on the same plane and move them back a hair. I'm certain that there's a better way to do this, but that looks good. Ish. All right. Well, that looks like a terrible parade to participate in. Now let's see what the minimum outer diameter of this would be if we wanted to rotate it. On this plane, I'm actually pretty close to the origin. I should shift this whole thing maybe. So normally, right, you can just draw a box around things. And for whatever reason, it's not letting me do that. I don't actually know why. It's like the selection tool is broken. Um, it's weird and annoying. Yeah, we're close enough though. I'm gonna move all of these onto the origin. As close as I can anyway, by sight. Oof. Wish I could see the origin. That'd be cool. Right. Now we can draw a circle off of the origin and get an idea just how big this thing would need to be. 1.963. Yikes. All right. So I think probably our gears are too big to begin with. And it might be a situation where we stack them vertically and have the finger pins act like sliders instead. Um, just because of the amount of space that this takes. But because I mean, for instance, like let's say we make it 2 inches even, right? The lock that I've modeled so far, the cube that I've been working with so far, is that big, but then it has sidewalls that are a 1/4 inch thick. They don't necessarily have to be, right? But they are. And so we're already playing in territory where I would need to change the geometry of the core itself to accept this. And I suppose that's fine if all we care about is getting gears in, then this could work. But otherwise we're gonna have to make some significant changes. Can't you use way smaller gears? Yes, I could. I could do that. And I probably should have used the gear generator that's built into this program, but I have very little experience with it and I need to learn it more. And so I was trying to use two components with the part that matters, their meshing ability, where it's already done and it's already correct. Um, but now that I'm looking at it, realizing how big it is, it seems like a bad plan. Because let's say, even if we got rid of this whole side and replaced it with a different mechanism, we're still sort of forcing our hand here. And there's it's not really room left to do much of anything on the far side. Yeah, honestly, they might actually have smaller ones. I jumped at the first one I saw. Let's take a look. You know what? Maybe we can find one easily. I didn't really try that hard. I just looked for things that matched. Gears, gears and racks, 20-degree pressure angle, gear. And I chose with the set screw, and I was looking for a matching face width, but they all sort of match. Oh, that's what I was looking at. I was looking at the gear pitch. That has to match. It has to. So 64. This is the smallest of both. Let's take a look at this. See what it looks like. Yep, that's significantly smaller. Okay, that's not what I was trying to move. Okay. Get rid of the sketches so I can select this thing. Hide the origin too. Just for whatever reason, it's trying to select the origin. And we'll move it after I finish this sketch. It's quite a bit smaller. That was easy. I should not be rotating that at all. Just trying to move it. Let's get rid of this gear altogether. Oh, it's mad. That's mad about that. Delete. Oh no. All right. Let's see. Go back to this. So I moved it right into that pack of gears. That did not go well. I want to delete this body, but there's a pattern based off of it. So I need to find this body instead. Yeah. Let's see if we can delete this without the whole world imploding. Nope, sure can't. Wow. What do I need to do? Okay, that's how I can do it. I'll hide all these, and then I'll hide all of these. These two. And then I'll just extrude it to death, because apparently that's what I need to do today. Nope, that's not what I want. Fusion is running hard today. Does not like what I'm doing. I'll just delete it that way. Let me bring all this other stuff back. Take this little guy and move it around. Maybe not. Yeah. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 cuts in it. So I'm going to aim to center it. And this one, which means I'm going to have to rotate it. Maybe like that. I'm going to draw a circle on this guy too. It's bigger than all of its hub. I just stood there. Close enough. Yeah. So that's less than half the size of the other one. All right. Yeah, I'm about to call it too. I'm running out of steam mentally. But that's way more tenable. Whether or not that works as well in here, I'm not sure, but I wonder what the radius is on this. Can I mill this? 0.0. That's 5 thousandths. 5 thousandths of an inch radius in that thing. That would be a 10 thousandths end mill. That won't. Yeah, I can't make that. At least not with that, without a relief or something. So yeah, if we do that, then let's do a top view and see what we can reduce our overall picture to, because, well, a lot smaller. The corners are the extents. Probably get away with that, which is probably get away with 1.5 inches, which is way better. Way better. I'm also only thinking about it from one dimension though, because my brain's cooked. So let's see, you're probably gonna want about 2 teeth engaged. I'm not sure if we're gonna get that with this particular gear, but yeah, if I scoot it in closer, we'll be at like full engagement on one. And it's, like the angle of it matters too. My understanding is that you should have one that's engaged, one that's leaving engagement, and one that's entering engagement all the time. But that might just be bad placement on my part. You just put 2 on each side in the middle instead of 4. I put different mechanism in front and in back. You just put 2 on each side in the middle. Yes. Yeah, now I get what you're saying. Yeah, absolutely. And you would be able to shrink your circle dramatically because the extent would be in the middle rather than the corner. So if we had this guy here instead, we can actually just visualize that. Flip it again. We were going to do it that way. All right, I'm on the wrong plane somehow. Yeah. So if this was about here, right, your circle could get all the way down to just over an inch. But again, I think only looking at it in that plane is wrong, and I'm just gonna need to sleep on it, I think, and my brain will figure it out while I'm sleeping and be like, "Ah, oh, you idiot! Go do these 3 things." It does that to me all the time. I get stuck like looking at one angle, but I think ultimately the way that we get away with a bunch of gears in one small place is by putting them closer together than I've got them, for one, and sort of using the fact that they are flat elements and put them all on a singular rod with spacers so that they're not pushing on each other too much. Like they can move about each other's faces without too much interruption. We'd be able to pack all 4 of these into the size of just from this edge to this edge. We could have 4. And I think we would still have enough meat on the front faces in the keyway where these guys could be supported laterally and keep them indexed to the gear face. So, yeah, I think that's where we're going to call it for the night. I don't see a very clear direction that I feel compelled to hunt at the moment. I think I want to play around with this idea more, and then see what comes out, because I think ultimately, like, if you look at it this way, right? This is the keyway. this can absolutely work. It takes up a lot of space, and I think we could do just as much, if not more, if we were looking at these finger pins this way and the keyway. Um, but yeah, we will. I'll play around it. I'll play around with it some more and start getting serious about getting a gear solution done at least, and that way, um, gears one. Why did it go back? Save. And that way we can at least have some pictures of what we're after. We can get the first mechanism locked down and start looking for real estate around it for other stuff. Yeah. Anyway, I appreciate any and all of you that are still in here, because I'm sure that was really slow and boring to watch for a long portion. So I'm impressed with your ability to pay attention. But that was fun for me. I had this idea for a couple of days, and now I can see it can actually work. I might have to try and find a cheaper version of this gear out there that doesn't have the extra meat on it, because when you're buying metal, you're really paying for atoms. So, like by removing that one shaft off the side of it, it's probably half the material it was before. So I bet you I can find an involute gear that size that's brass, and maybe even smaller, but still robust enough to pull this off. This diameter is exactly an 1/8 inch, which works out really well because that's a standard diameter. So imagine there's a steel rod in there that's just a hair undersized. It would roll on that like a dream. So making progress, radius, yeah. And even more evil would be if the finger pins could rotate, meshing and demeshing between 2 or 3 different gears next to each other, which needed to be moved in a specific order. That would be more evil, but that also sounds like it would be really hard to make work with a key. So if you can draw that and I can understand that drawing, we can talk. But it seems unlikely. It seems unlikely that that's going to work out. As much as I can, I try to keep designs in 3-axis, so I can visually understand them easier. Like my head works in 2-dimensional layers stacked on top of each other. It's really bad at 3D visualization until I can use CAD to do that part for me. So Kaba simplex mechanism, not familiar, but if you got pictures, feel free to throw it at me in the Discord. I'm glad you enjoyed it, Garrett. I appreciate you hanging out. Probably next to impossible to pick, or at least I definitely wouldn't want to touch that one. Yeah. Yeah, I think you did touch on something though that would probably be really helpful. Lady Locks, you said, well, what if you just did 2 in the middle on either side? Right. And there's no reason for us to do 8 gears. There isn't. It just was where my brain went. But if we did, if we did 2 gear packs in the center with 2 finger pins on either side of the keyway, that would be neat. It would be neat, and it would take less space. But I think if I was gonna just do 4 or less, I would keep them all on one side, because then I only have to sacrifice one face of the key to one slider track or fingerpin track or whatever you want to call it. I'm only putting one feature in to control all of that type of element, and I still have the other 3 faces of the key to play with. So if we did it in the orientation that I have been working on, with the circle out where it is, then we're going to need to come up from the underside of the lock. The shackle would be on the top and the keyway would be on the bottom. And that locks us into a very, very large cylinder that we would need to stop with multiple mechanisms. And I think that could work really well. There's a lot of really high powered locks that do exactly that. So it bodes well for levers for sure. It bodes less well for pin tumbler, but I think we can get around it with another ring, but it's sort of dangerously close to the master ring idea, and I don't really want to steal that. So anyway, push button 5, vertical button door lock knob. Oh, I actually know that. Yeah. You have to push the buttons in a specific order or no worky. Yeah. We have some of those at work. Yeah, we just call them cipher locks, but I think that is the correct name. Simplex, is it it's like a 1000 something or other? Cabo 1000. Put a lever or two in the back. Yeah, we could do that. We could operate that's actually something I don't think I've seen before. And I like that. I'm gonna write that down because I will forget. Levers in back like tubular elements. I would be surprised if no lock has ever done that, but I don't think I've ever seen that. Yeah, just imagine that the tip of this square shaped key has angled cuts in it, flat angled cuts. And so when you push it all the way back in there, it'll interact with those levers uh, and push them and set them sort of, yeah, just pushing away. It's going to really limit how much you can move them unless the cuts are deep. If the cuts are too deep, then you're going to lose slider trackability on one side. I'm going to play around with that for sure, though. I don't think I've ever seen a lever act like a tubular element where it's pushed at the back. I have seen them pushed out in the keyway. I think even the 787 has something like that. But I don't know. Smuckers would probably know better than me. Have you ever seen one that's got levers that are just flat at the back face of the keyway and are pushed with a key tip? I don't think I've ever seen that. There are lever locks with cuts on the face of the key. And by the face of the key, you mean the tip of the key? Like the shaft of it? Many push key locks are like that. They have levers in the back though? I mean, I believe you. I can't picture it. So, all right, cool. Well, I'm gonna shut it down. I appreciate you guys coming out and chatting and watching me struggle to operate Fusion 360 in offline mode. And this is where we're at right now. It's likely to change a whole lot, but it's a start. It's certainly a start. And yeah, so there'll be another video next Friday to vote on the stuff we talked about tonight. And hopefully I will have developed not only this, but a couple other gear mechanisms and done some CAD work to represent other ideas that have already been put in the Discord. I haven't had a whole lot of time for CAD. So hopefully I can get caught up and present several ideas for a direction to go in, and everybody can kind of catch up because there's a lot more people watching the videos than there are attending the streams for obvious reasons. So hope you have a good night, and yeah, it's been fun.